Hey, Coach.
Hey, what's up?
Roller coaster of a season.
Yeah, to say the least.
How would you kind of characterize the journey? Because it seems even stranger than it was the season before.
Yeah, I mean, it was, not what we would have expected going in. But, I think there were a ton of positives that came out of it. And, when you look back at it, I think that's where we need to focus and spend our time. Just, again, like I talked about last night, the guys that we were fortunate enough to be able to work with, the way they worked, the way they competed, the way they treated one another, the way they treated the game, and their commitment, to the team and to the organization and to the fans. So, when you look at it from that perspective, there's a lot of positives.
Were you surprised even by how quickly the team seemed to gel after the trade? Did that even surprise you?
Yeah, the best part about it was, again, those guys' commitment to it. And that's why I think it happened so quickly. Again, guys that came from playoff teams, didn't come in here with a grudge, didn't come in here upset. They wanted to play with one another. They wanted to play for our fans. I think there's a huge respect around the league of the Grizzlies fan base, and players appreciate that. And I think those guys came in here with that in mind and played well with one another and played hard every night for our fans.
How important is it to have this personnel, or how much of this personnel do you need to be able to maybe carry that chemistry and momentum forward next season?
I'd be excited about it. I think guys proved, the impact that they could have on the game. And when you look at teams that are able to sustain success, they have a core group of guys that continue to show up and appear. So, I think that's important when you are moving forward, and, whatever your thoughts are, is that you have, that group of guys, and then you could sprinkle other guys around them, and kind of see what you can build. The difficult part for us this year, obviously, was the injuries. And missing, Jaren down the stretch to see, how he and Jonas could work together on the inside. Kyle, Dylan, you can go on and on of the injuries that piled up that made it a little bit difficult to get a full grasp of what you have. But, as a coach and as a coaching staff, you sit back and you just envision, where those guys could fit and how they could work with one another, and it's exciting.
JB, what did you learn about Jonas that you didn't know from just watching this game from afar?
The energy that he played with. He plays with a certain spirit that everybody doesn't have, and his spirit impacts the team in a positive way. He's uplifting, he's positive, but he plays so hard, and he's so passionate about what he's doing that, it impacts everybody in the arena. I think you can feel it when he's on the floor. And, when you only see him twice a year, you don't necessarily get an opportunity to see that.
I know you didn't get the long look of him and Jaren together that you would have wanted, but did you see enough of him that you feel like you can imagine how that would work?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think the two of those guys, could play extremely well together, and thinking about how, we've started to play after the break with more 5-out spacing and that type of stuff. Both of those guys are capable of playing on the perimeter. Jonas right now might not be, a three-point threat, so to speak, but his ability to get to secondary actions and play pick and roll out in space, allow him to be a guy who can play out on the perimeter. And people have to respect him out there because he can get to action so quickly. If you're not guarding him, then there's no help for whatever, pick and roll or guard dribble handoff that he's playing.
You have a good feeling about chances of him coming back?
I would love to have Jonas back. I don't know, what free agency is always, up in the air. You don't know what other people are thinking or what other people are willing to do. But, personally, I would love to have him back.
Kind of along those lines, what has Mike, been like to coach, and how much do you guys want him back in the future as well?
To me, Mike is a gem. He's extremely rare, and I can't tell you how much I leaned on him this season and how much I depended on him, on the court and behind the scenes. They don't make guys like Mike Conley too often. A guy who, as kind as he is, as unselfish as he is, but a guy who still has a killer instinct that in, fourth quarters and big moments, he enjoys ripping people's hearts out, and that combination, you just don't see it a lot, and the ability to do it. So, I can't say enough good things about Mike, and, how much I just enjoy every single day coming to work with Mike and, enjoying some of his successes. You think about, for the first time, being a, NBA Player of the Week, after the career and the things that he's done, being a part of him scoring a career high. I think all those things, you appreciate it, you respect him, but it's just fun to be a part of something like that with a person like Mike.
The way that things were at the midway point of the season, how nice was it to kind of end more on a positive note?
It's the successes that we have are the reason why we do what we do, and the success doesn't always come from wins and losses. There's other things that we count as successes. You think about DeLon Wright's development. A guy, to be able to come out and get 3 triple doubles out of 4 nights. Again, you take the individual things. The way that Jonas was able to play. I think we had 8 guys, set career highs this year. 8 veteran players set career highs. We had 20 different people this year lead us in scoring. So those are positive things that necessarily don't show up in the results. But when you add those things up and you're starting to build a culture and a foundation, those are things that you can build on and look back on in a positive way.
What DeLon did, how much of that is a product of having more freedom within that space of games? And if that's the case, how does that translate when you're into the next NBA season and it's not exactly the same?
Well, I think the understanding of what you're capable of, in those moments is huge. And you don't know what you're capable of until you go out there and you have to run a team for 40 minutes. It's completely different, being a backup or, coming off the bench or not playing in fourth quarters of games, that you're trying to win or that are close games. So until you get that experience, you just truly don't know. Once you understand that you are capable of that, I think that leads to confidence. And then having that happen at the end of the year for him, gives him a better outlook on the summer. And then it makes him more confident in his work over the summer, and the expectations for him change. He changes the expectations for himself, understanding what he's capable of.
You changed them for you?
Yeah, we've been very pleased with DeLon. It's, again, with the guards that he played with in Toronto, those guys had the ball in their hands a lot. We watched film, obviously, and saw flashes of what he's able to do. But, for him to come in and be able to perform the way he did, I think was above expectations.
JB, you guys set some goals at the start of the season. Obviously, had the playoffs in mind, and then kind of readjusted it to try and convey the pick, which is still kind of up in the air. How do you overall categorize this season?
Again, trying to spend most of our time seeing the positives in what happened. Obviously you have to evaluate, every piece of the year and every part of it and how you ended up where you did. But this league is difficult and winning is hard. We obviously got off to a really good start, but then as the season progressed, again, you talk about the teams that win are teams that are experienced together. And we were a brand new team. And having to go through some tough times, that's how you build continuity, and that's how you win in difficult situations and adverse situations. So we had to go through some difficult times because we were so new. And that's why the hope is, you can have a core group of guys, keep some guys together who have been through some experiences together, and that's how you sustain success. So, it had its ups and downs, but it's part of the process of building a program that can sustain some success.
Coach, this being your first season, you learned a lot yourself. What are some of the things from the beginning of the season that you would do differently, knowing what you know now?
You know what? There's not a ton of things that we would do differently. The way things played out, we thought training camp went well. Obviously we got off to a good start. Can you go back and look at, some game-by-game decisions that may have been different for you? Sure. I think we can all go out and do that. But in, the overarching plan of what we were trying to accomplish and how we set forth to do it, I think we went about things the right way. Again, results varied, but, when you look at it overall in the big picture of it, the plan of attack, we believe was right. And then, things just kind of fell into place.
JB, after
You just watching out this first season.
I think he had a good first season. The difficult part, for Yuta is, with all rookies, is just the learning curve of going from college or, what have you, to the NBA and being able to compete against NBA players every single night. The experience that he got playing in the G League is invaluable, but it's different than playing in the NBA. So we're pleased with Yuta, the way that he worked, the way he's able to pick up things, his understanding and commitment to the game. We thought he had a good rookie year.
Any improvements against the next season?
I think he can definitely just continue working on his shot. He has the ability to get to his spot. He moves well with and without the ball. But he needs to be able to just focus on shooting. That's what this league is coming down to now. It's guys who can make shots, can stay in the league for a long, long time.
As far as Jaren Jackson's concerned, obviously that first year is so important for their development. How do you guys try and avoid this injury being a setback in year two?
Well, I think you have a long summer, and I think that's what's important. The most important thing is that we allow him to get 100% healthy, and then we can start from there. But we've got plenty of time to do that, and we've got a plan in place for Jaren. Again, we have high expectations. We have a bigger role for him in mind moving forward, and we've got to work with him over this summer to help develop that. But again, because of the type of kid he is and the way that he works, and the amount of time that we have, where we don't have to feel rushed in the process, we expect him to make a big jump.
How frustrating is it that you weren't really able to see him with those guys that you guys got at the trade deadline?
I mean, it is frustrating. Obviously it's a part of it, but it would have been nice, to see those guys together. I definitely believe that the two of them, the big guys, in particular, which is rare in today's game, could have been a nice 1-2 punch, and they could have complemented each other extremely well. The way they play, not only skill-wise, but the intangibles, the energy that they both bring, can have a huge impact on the team. And it would have been nice to be able to see them play a little bit more together, so we could learn different things in different ways that we could use them.
When you look at what JV was able to do towards the end there, is that a player that you would obviously feel like you need to have back?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, being around him on the court, but being next to him in practice and shoot arounds, and just watching him interact with his teammates, the productivity speaks for itself. But those other things are the things that when you're looking to find a core group, those are the things that you want, that you look for.
JB, given how well so many of the players played after the injuries and everything, it seemed like it kept rolling. But did it change your idea of who the core of the team is now?
I mean, to be honest with you, there's not one guy on this team who I could say I didn't want around. There's not one guy who I couldn't say, didn't fit the mold of the type of players that we're looking for. So I think it would be, unfair to say, it changed one way or another. I get free agency and, roster restructuring and all that type of stuff, but, these guys, man, no matter what the circumstances were, continued to compete and play hard. They continued to improve. They continued to play unselfish, so, I'm extremely happy that I had the opportunity to work with these guys, and if I had to work with any of them again, I definitely would.
Does it concern you at all that this team could come out of the 2019 draft without a pick?
No, I mean, it's just part of the business. You as an organization, you make decisions, and then you move forward from those decisions. Again, there's enough talent there, and we just have to make sure, as coaches, we do the best with what we have.
Personally, have you been able to evaluate any of the guys in that went through 8 range?
As far as the draft picks you're saying?
Yes.
I've watched some of them, but not enough to give you a direct opinion yet. Yeah.
JB, Chris, spoke pretty highly of the job you did, and you said the plan is for you to come back. I mean, what does it mean to you just to know that you'll have that, solidarity going forward?
I mean, it means a lot. And again, throughout this whole process, Chris has been great. The front office has been great. They've communicated with me. They've given me the help that I felt, that you need, and the support that you felt you need. And it's a good opportunity to build something. And when you have an opportunity to build something, you don't have to make rush decisions or panic decisions. And, that's the way we came into it this season. We came into the season with an idea of building something. And, not necessarily every night what you guys see on the floor, but building a culture, creating an environment where, players come and they want to stay. And I think if you were to ask the guys today when you have your conversations with them, this is a place that they want to be. And I think that's huge, when you're in this business and you're trying to, find free agents and that type of stuff where, part of your recruiting pitch is, it's an environment where people want to be, and the players believe it and the players sell it. So that makes it huge for us as a coaching staff and as an organization.
Hi, Coach. It was talk before Avery Bradley got injured that he was rediscovering himself as a player. What's your thoughts on that?
I think so. I think the role that we asked of Avery was different than it had been for him when he was with the Clippers. It was more of what he was when he was in Boston, and it's in him, and he got back to it. You look at the productivity, on the offensive end of the floor, the way he was able to impact the game. He set a career high in points while he was here, and then the obvious, the way he impacts the game on the defensive end of the floor. To me, he's one of the top 5 perimeter defenders in this league. In a league where you can't say that, about a lot of people anymore because, it's so offensive minded. But, he was a guy who came in here, and felt a little underused. And it was fun for us to just, kind of open the gates for him and let him go out and do his thing.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Coach. Have a good summer.